Welcome back to Research Debrief, the podcast that bridges the gap between the fitness industry and the latest science. Luke, what's the topic of discussion for today?
Yeah, there's a new paper just published a matter of a couple weeks ago. It's the National Strength and Conditioning Association's position statement on training female athletes. And so this is our most up-to-date scientific document on what do we have to do differently, if anything, when a female versus a male is partaking in strength training and conditioning activities. This is a hot topic because we have a lot of podcasters and pundits and authors talking about how a female needs to train differently. This is our up-to-date understanding of, is that true? And where that's eventually going to go is in our clubs, what should we be marketing around what a female needs to do, right? And not only what are we marketing, but clearly how are we actually programming, right? What are our offerings look like? So this is a really important scientific document. Let's jump into a couple of the takeaways. The first is that the fundamentals of strength training probably don't change for a female. So there is just no evidence that says the basic principles of strength training and conditioning are different for males and females. So those principles, those foundational principles are progressive overload, appropriate training volume, meaning are we doing enough sets overall, appropriate intensity, which means when we're doing strength training, are we getting close enough to muscle failure? Appropriate intensity for our cardio means, is our heart rate high enough? Specificity means, are you training for the goal or the adaptation that you have, right? Don't expect your training, your workout to do what it's not designed to do. Specificity means you have to actually choose the training based on the outcome that you're looking for. Recovery is one of those foundations. Individualization means, hey, I have an elbow injury. This exercise is really uncomfortable for me. I have to find a different exercise for me. That exercise might be wonderful for you or for so many other people, but it's not good for me based on my elbow pain. Consistency. So there's a tremendous amount of women's fitness content that makes strength training seem radically different for women. What this position stand says is, well, really 100 years of strength training science says the fundamentals are the same for a female as a male. Now, one of the things we talk about repeatedly on this podcast, Rachel, is we have to look at what does the research say, not necessarily what's best for our marketing. I do not think it's best for our marketing to say, well, it turns out that this training and conditioning for a female should be the same as a male. When I say that, just saying that out loud almost deters a female from wanting to listen to this conversation because they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard. I understand that. We want something that's for us. Let me tell you, the most up-to-date research says it's the same, right? And so a female and a male's exercise prescription is largely the same. So the second key takeaway is that we've probably overestimated the importance of menstrual cycle timing for our programming, okay? The thought was, well, we really have to time the exercise component with where we are in the menstrual cycle, and there's just very little research to say that that is the case. Okay, so we do not need to cycle sync our workouts. Huge takeaway. And again,
yeah, you did a deep dive episode on that one.
Absolutely, yep. But there continues to be noise on social media and podcasts and so forth about needing to do this. We don't need to. However, we can still adjust the workout to the symptoms of the cycle, right? So do you feel motivated to train today, right? And if you don't, you could do the workout tomorrow. How is your sleep, and how is your sleep impacted by where you are in the menstrual cycle? Your recovery from a previous workout. Those are very real symptoms connected to the cycle, but it's not, hey, we have to nail the phase of the cycle with the specific workout that we're going to do. So maybe our takeaway here is track your symptoms, not the actual cycle, is probably the takeaway message there. And then I think the other key takeaway from this paper is that probably the individual matters more than kind of the sex category. So we should individualize the workout for sure, but it turns out that that individualization is per human, not per sex. Okay, I'm not saying we should all work out the exact same way. That is not what this research says. It just says females and males don't need a different prescription. So we shouldn't say things like, well, because you're a female, you need this. The coaching in the future will be, well, because you're this individual and you have these goals and you have these strengths and you have these weaknesses, you have this training history, you have these symptoms currently, these are your needs, here's how we should move forward. But it's probably not based on males or females. Another key takeaway here is that women don't need less strength training. They might need a little bit more of a focus on certain areas of their strength training. So we know that women generally start off with less upper body strength compared to men. So maybe the focus here is, well, women respond to strength training the same way, but they definitely need to focus on upper body because they're starting off at a little bit more of a deficit. I think that's a key takeaway. There was some thought and there's some conversation around, well, female has a different predisposition on muscle fiber types. They have more or less of fast twitch or slow twitch muscle fibers. This paper says that's probably not the case. Okay. Fiber type is so incredibly similar. We don't need to train a female or a male differently based on that. And then we would talk about, I think the last topic is injury prevention. And the injury prevention elements are probably more around individual anatomy and not male versus female. And so, like I said before, you might have some pre-existing elbow pain. You might have a hip structure or a pelvic structure that predisposes you to injury if you perform this sport, but it's probably not germane to being a male or a female. Let me tell you, Rachel, kind of as we wrap up this particular study, I'm not even saying this is good news for our marketability, but as exercise professionals, we just have to understand this is the current research. And if we're advertising for marketing programs that are specific to a female's needs, we are making it up, because it turns out that really what a male needs to do and what a female needs to do, it is very, very simple. One of the key takeaways from this paper is that women are highly trainable. They respond to exercise incredibly well. Okay, that's good. And we should probably stop overcomplicating exercise for females. That's the biggest takeaway for our industry, is we want more women engaged in strength training and meaningful conditioning activities. We want more participation. And what these researchers are saying is we're actually creating a barrier to entry because we're saying it's so complicated, right? If I'm a female and I hear that you have to understand I'm currently in the luteal phase, and if I'm in the luteal phase, this is what my workout should look like, and I need to do that workout fasted or not fasted, and I need to lift a heavier weight, at some point I'm going to say, just forget it, right? Yeah. This is too complicated. This paper says the most scientific approach for a female is a simple approach. It can be very, very general based on those principles that we mentioned earlier. That is something we can build our businesses around.
For sure. So if someone comes into the facility that's looking to achieve a specific strength training goal, do not factor their gender into the equation. Just best practices for how to achieve that goal.
Exactly. Use the basic principles, treat them like a human being. We don't have to say because you're a female or because you're a male.
Yeah, makes sense.